Alright, so this basically is a video between the SKS and the M14. This is a video request that a friend of mine has been asking me since I got the M14. He keeps saying do a video of the difference, so here it is. I'm going to start off with what it shoots. I'll just move this down here and we'll get some bullets out. It's just a basic demo. The SKS shoots this one. It's a 7.62 by 3.9, and the M14 shoots a 7.62 by 5.1 or a 308 Win. So a couple differences is the SKS. If you really want to make it anything similar to this, there's a lot of mods you need to do. That's the SKS to the M14. So, as you can see, there's a non-detachable magazine. They're both plugged to 5, despite the size. You can get a 5-round sport mag for this as well, but if you want anything bigger, you need to basically take the whole gun apart, pound out a pin that's quite hard to do, actually, or drill it out, and then get a nail that's the same size to make a new pin out of, and put that back in. And same goes for a lot of other parts if you want to customize this. To basically field strip it, you don't need very many tools. Sometimes a flathead is required. The M14, it's quite easy to strip without any tools. They both have cleaning kits in the stock, however this one does not at the moment because it's got the Monte Carlo stock, which is not set up to put a cleaning kit unless you take the butt plate off and put it in there and then put the butt plate back on each time, which is kind of a hassle. So with this stock already, it's got the cleaning kit in there. I'll show you the cleaning kit if you watch my video on the basically the first video I have of this. It's it'll go over the contents of the cleaning kit. I've kept everything for it, but however, I took the middle section, or the insert out of the M14, which held all the cleaning supplies, to make a larger cavity, which I added a rag, a 30 cal brush, and a couple other things. Because the brush that comes with it is just a chamber brush. It's not actually a brush to go through the bore of the M14. So I added that, and that fits my rod that comes with it. The difference about this SKS in particular is just that it's modded up a little bit differently as to the traditional wood stock SKS, but the M14 you can also get them with the wood stock, as original M14s generally are. This, however, is a Norinco. It is a copy. This is a Simonov, a real SKS. I'll go into the basic strip down of the SKS and the M14 just to show the differences between those two. Okay, so as far as loading this goes, in the first place, they both have an area that you can put stripper clips into. That's the SKS. And the M14 right there. So I'm not going to go into the silly thing of proving that these guns are safe. I've already done that before they come out. I don't even need to mention any of that. If I'm doing videos with loaded guns, then, well, I deserve to have my problems. Okay, so that opens up, like I said, just this. That's one way to dump the ammo out if you wanted. And it has the auto hold open. But when you strip it, you don't want that held open because you have a spring that's under tension. It's going to shoot in your face when you take off the back shield. So you want to release all tension in the gun. I even like to release the hammer. So now what we do, when you pull this bolt back, the hammer will be reset anyway, but I just like to make sure all tension is released when I go ahead to take the SKS apart. So what I did was there's a little lever right there. You open that, pull it out, drive side out. That's where you grab your charge handle, that's your drive side, and your pin gets pulled out, and that can come off. Now you take your the bolt spring and guide rod, it's all one piece, it comes out. Now you got your bolt carrier, that slides back, and you pull it out with the bolt. It'll be all like so. And that's as far as field stripping this goes. It's quite different than the M14. There's really no actual comparison. The M14's gas thing is on the bottom, the SKS gas system's on the top. Now you can go ahead and take apart the gas piston system on the SKS by pulling this little lever up until you can free your piston section. And this will come out. And then your piston rod. Now this is where you gotta be careful because there's a preloaded spring inside there, and you'll want to put your finger in front of this hole with the lever because it's going to shoot out, and you just catch it with your finger. So there it is with a spring. So you take that spring and you put that aside. And that's basically as stripped down as this gets. Now you'll clean the gun, run your bore thing through. It doesn't really come off the stock. If you want to take it off the stock, you have to pull a pin out of here, do a bunch of pounding, you scratch it up real good. As you can see, mine's got lots of marks on it. So, sort of a downside. And I'll show you why the M14, in this sense, I actually do like better. So I'm going to put the, I'm just going to basically put this back together. I just need to find all my parts here. I think I stuck that back in. No, I didn't. Alright, I gotta stand up. There it is. So that just goes back in. And this is where you need to push that rod back down and keep that so it's half open, half closed. That way, when you put your piston back into the cylinder, you can put your gun back together. And that just goes like that, and you just tap that and close this lever down. Once you can. Sometimes you can take something and just drift it a little bit. Push that into play. And there we go. Now, you take your bolt and bolt carrier. I just like to keep it together. There's no point taking it all apart and stuff like that. And you're going to put this way, charge handle forward. And just slide that into place. Take your rod and bolt, stick twisty side in, straight side out. It does work both ways, I've tried it, but I've been told by a few people that just keep your straight side out, so that's what I do. It makes sense, because when this is sliding, ouch, sorry, so you gotta watch that. When this is sliding back and forth, it's not going to hit those twists on your bolt. I should have known better on that one. Yeah, the SKS can be dangerous with this damn spring. It's really not held in there until you put this cap on there. So, there you go. Tension released. So we'll just make sure that works. We'll drop the magazine so it doesn't hold open. Works just fine. So that's the takedown and everything on the SKS. As far as weight goes on the SKS, since I've changed to the lighter stock, the guns are pretty close to the same weight, just as when this gun sits bare. That means nothing on it. I've got another SKS that's a lot heavier. And this is pretty much a fully decked out SKS, and it's got your folding stock on it. There we go. I've got the a scope on it that can actually still take the stripper clips. When you pull this back, you can put your stripper clips right up in front of that scope. And when you have your discharge of your empty casings coming out, you don't chip up the scope because it's so short. You don't need a scope deflector and all that. So that's one cool thing about this particular scope. It's actually made for the SKS, and BSAE made this particular scope. It's just a regular 4x scope and works just fine. In fact, it works really well. It's got some nice milling setup inside it, so it's got all those dots, the mills, so you can line up your shots with that as well. I've added a bipod to it just because it's a heavy frickin' gun, and I can always set it up on the table and shoot off the table and stuff like that. It takes down relatively the same way as the one I just showed you, except for there's now Allen key needed because of, well, the additions I've put onto it. I got to actually get this thing off to get to the operation, the gas piston and all that. So it is a slight downside, but I was able to rig up both stocks so they still held my bayonets onto the gun. If you want to take the bayonet off, you need a flathead screwdriver. So that right there was pretty much the SKS and its functions and how it kind of works. So now we're going to go into the M14. Now this is pretty cool. As far as loading goes, you've got a detachable magazine, which you can put 5 rounds in this one, even though it looks like a 20. If I was in the States or anywhere else, and yeah, you can of course get a 20 rounder, but we're in Canada, so whatever, it's just 5. And I can always get a Sporter 5-round mag too. That's probably something I will end up getting. So, the cleaning kit's inside the stock, just the same. I took out this insert that was inside this stock holding the cleaning kit, and then I added a couple extra things and made a bigger space in here. So, it's one thing I did to it. But other than that, now you can see it's quite a bit of different gun. We've got different sights. That one just has standard V and guarded sights, and this one has what I call peephole, or might be even a ghost ring, with the front bladed sights that have the wings to protect it. And comes to disassembly, it's very, very easy. Before I get into that, I will mention that I can put a bayonet on this as well. I have bayonet mount right here on the bottom, and I believe it sits on that bolt. I could be wrong about that. I think actually it sits up on the muzzle. The handle goes on the muzzle, and the handle clips into this little T-bar. So we're going to go into now the disassembly of it. As you can see, this will be very easy to disassemble. The magazine comes out first. Right here is a trigger guard. Now when I first did this sucker was basically stiffer than the Pope's dick during a baptism, because I really need to reef on it, but it just comes out like so. Quite easy. So I've got that. I'm going to see if this just holds open. Oh yeah. So the hammer was caught. So there we go. I like it held open, so when it goes in, it's going to slide a lot easier. You don't have your locking mechanism in the way. So, take this, and it just pops off the rifle. Just like that. Put that down. We've got the gun right here. I'm going to take the operating... I believe I'm going to take this spring bolt out first. So we're going to push that in. So right here, there's a little lever. I don't know if you guys can see. There's a little thing that moves back and forth, a pin that holds your operating rod in place, and you can take it out just like that. So here, I'll try and get more light here. So it's also sort of one piece. It comes out, but you can just leave it in there. If you need to wipe this, go for it. And that just sits. We'll put that aside, so we're not losing it. So now that's going to flow a lot freer, your bolt and operating rod. So I just popped that right out. There's a little track and groove that you need to get this to before it actually comes out if you're having trouble with it. Or you can just wiggle it like I did. But there's a little spot halfway along your wheel here that's got a little divot, and there is a, I'll just show you in a second. There we go. So there's that track there, and there's this little notch on the end of where your charging handle is, right there, and you want to line those up to pull that bit out, and then this operating rod will come right out of your brace there. So I'll put that aside. Now this is where you sort of need a tool. You've got one that comes with the gun. Pull it out. Yeah, this is a little tricky sometimes, so you'll probably break your nails. Yeah. There we go. So I got it. It's sticky because it's basically brand new. And because I got a larger cavity now, they sort of do get caught up. And that's why I haven't thrown that container out. I'm trying this to see if it works. And I think it will, but it's just a little bit more to get your parts out. I'm just trying to get out my added brush, the brush that I added to it. It's actually for the SKS, but I've got a few SKSs and I don't need the cleaning brush with all of them, so I added that to it. And it fits the your rod that comes with it really well. Fits well enough. It's not 100%, but it works. So we'll put this together just quickly, because I'll show you sort of how this can work. Okay, so you've got basically your rag holder on one end. That's your little eyelet thingamajigger that you put your rag through. You have this tool T-bar. Okay, so the bolt just came out, and you're just going to basically inspect the bolt, make sure your firing pins float in there freely, just kind of like you do with the SKS. And now's the time that you're going to put it back together once you've cleaned it. So, your bolt. This is sort of the hardest part about this M14 in my opinion, is lining up where that bolt goes to get it back in. You want this wheel always on the drive side, which will be the charging handle side, but to be honest, I always have trouble with this part. There, okay, I got it in. So it needs to slide back and forth on that track, and it will get caught there, so that's all. I'll try and show you. So, okay. So we got the bolt in. Now we want to put that operating rod on. This is what I recommend. and it's right behind me. So this part's kind of somewhat tricky as well, because you have to line up inside this groove here, the wheel on your bolt, and also that notch needs to line up with that notch right underneath your wheel. So you want to pull your bolt back is what I recommend, till it's all the way back. You're going to feed this rod into the hole, and that's when you're going to sort of play with it till it goes in and make sure your bolt is caught, as you can see. So you can see it works. So what's happening here is when your piston is inside here, there's a little hole in that piston, and that sets up facing the gun. So as the air gets blasted in through, it gets blasted through the hole in the piston against the body and your nut, basically your nut. So it's inside a tube and it's slamming this thing down the rod, the cylinder, and it's ramming your rod to pull your bolt backwards, and that's going to help eject your old round, because there's an extractor here that's going to help pull that old casing out, flick it off, and as that spring pushes this right back in, because it will want to automatically close, feeds another round in there. You can pull the trigger, hits your hammer on the firing pin, and the process goes all over again. So that's how that works. So you want to put this piston back in flat side towards your gun, so the hole is facing inside your barrel. And you want to just make sure that's in there by, here you'll see it drop through. If it doesn't drop through, you won't get your nut on. It'll be hard to get your nut back in place. There we go. So you see it drop through my piston. And then now we can put the nut back on. If you don't do the nut properly, it's yeah, you won't get the nut. It'll just keep turning. You won't get it tight. You won't even tighten it down. So if that's frustrating you, that's what your problem is. Your piston hasn't dropped all the way through yet. See, there's definitely air suction, because you can see it. It's got definitely a good seal. See, it's sort of like a shock, because there's no gas going in and out. It's sucking air in and out of the barrel here. So you can hear it. So anyway, we're going to put this spring back. You'll want that little nub side facing up if the gun is upside down. And this is where you want to feed your rod all the way forward. Oop. I can see my bolt is slipped. So right, there we go. Because it was upside down and I pulled it back, the guide rod fell off. So this is where we just put this back together, same way you took it apart, by pushing this spring all the way in and make sure your cotter pin, your slide pin closes, holding it in place. You can always give it a try. Keep your hands out of the way. You don't want to pinch any fingers. So it's working. Now we're going to stick this back onto the gun. Very easy. We're just going to set this onto the groove. Here, take that apart. It just sets like so, rocks into place, and you drop it in place. So it just drops into the gun. Now we take our trigger guard. You'll want your magazine catch facing your charging handle, basically the front of the gun. And we're going to drop this trigger in place with your latch up on that trigger guard. You don't want trigger guard closed yet, or you're going to have a hard time getting this back together. And there's a very thin groove that you need to find that this will slide down. There's right where under these two blades, there's a groove inside the gun that catches onto, and you know you're in place, and you can now snap that shut, which clamps the gun together. Now's the time you are going to try this, and it works. I just dry fired it, and we're sound. So we'll put the magazine back in. I'm going to get my cleaning kit back together in just a minute, so I won't worry about that just yet. And there you go. So, they're quite different guns. I really wouldn't compare them. When I'm shooting them both, they both shoot really well. I can hit distances, 175 meters, I can still hit my target, no problem. Flawlessly. So, I'm not going to say that one is better shooting than the other. They both feel different. I actually like the feel of this one better, me personally. The SKS, especially the Monte Carlo stock, cramps my my two fingers up a little bit when I'm holding it. It's a really small handle. I think the ATI pistol grip, I like the grip better, but the gun feels top heavy. This gun's sort of like an equal balance of the two, but of course I haven't put anything or accessorized it at all, so it's going to get heavier once I do that. Or if I do. I don't really have any plans to yet. I'm just going to keep it the way it is, just shoot it basically the way it is, iron sights. I may put a scope on it, if anything, but other than that I don't think I'll really do too much, other than get some more 5-round mags if I can. The safety on this one is right in the front. It only works when when the hammer's basically pulled back. Now I can put my safety in, can't pull the trigger. Even if I were to drop the mag, release the bolt, that safety, you make sure safety's on, you won't pull the trigger. That's weird because I just wiggled the trigger and it seemed to snap forward. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. It seems to be on a spring kind of. So I don't know. If you want to do it quietly, just do it two-fingered. So that's one issue about the safety, I guess. I would like the safety on the SKS. To be honest, I almost never use it, but the safety's right up here. It's just a little lever that you just turn side to side, and it's right there by your trigger finger. So I have no complaints of that one either. I think this one can get very stiff for some people, and you just have to basically oil the shit out of it and work it in, and it will get looser. I remember having my first SKS and it was really, really stiff. So, but it's not stiff anymore. And like I said, when I got this one, pulling this out was a real bitch. I had to get a really strong screwdriver in there and reef it over, but now I can pull it out without any tool, so I just worked it in. So, in conclusion, like I said, they're quite different. This is like, yeah, the gas runs through the bottom of this gun, making it operate, while the SKS, the gas comes up, and it's running up along the top of the gun. They're both carbines, they're both dirty guns, gotta clean them, all that maintenance, but that's why they're made easy to take down. So I think that's pretty much all I've got for the differences. As far as customization goes, there's all sorts of things you can get for this gun, there's all sorts of things you can get for the SKS. The sights go, adjustments, they're both fully adjustable sights. I guess on the M14, I believe that once I can figure out how to make this thing go side to side, there's also that option, which the SKS doesn't really have. You can only adjust the front sight side to side. The front sight you can also adjust on the SKS up and down. The M14, you can only adjust the front sight side to side, unless you get a different kind of sight. And whether they make them, I don't know. And the rear sight is more adjustable on the M14. So they're sort of like a flip-flop of each other that way, if you want to think about it. In a way, they're almost like completely inversely different guns. So, there you go. yeah, I don't really have much other to say. Sling mounts, that they basically take the same kind of sling as far as these two guns go. So not too much difference there. I've got a metal butt plate on this one. You could always put a rubber boot on it. I got a rubber boot on the other one, but I've got the original SKS has a metal butt plate. So yeah, there you go. That's pretty much the difference between those two. So I don't know. Any questions? Anything to add? Please go right ahead. Yeah, I don't know. You tell me which one you like better.